My name is Melanie Fessel. I'm an architect and urban designer based at ETH Zurich, the Chair of Architecture and Urban Design. My paper is entitled Unlimited Pedagogy, Transformative Education for an Urbanizing Planet. Urban design education provides a unique pedagogical framework for circular design thinking. Currently, many new urban design practices are being used in cities, such as citizen science working groups, bottom-up initiatives, and open source community labs. Additional practices include do-it-yourself platforms, computation, and e-governance. These practices offer an alternative to the top-down government-led organization and planning of cities. A framework of innovative architecture and urban design production is required for the unbounded development of cities. This paper discusses a framework I'm developing, the Method Design Responsive Teaching Framework. This framework recognizes the need to consider society's mutual civic responsibility in the ongoing climate crisis. Specifically, architecture and urban design education can propose collective ideas and design strategies that contribute to this urbanization. My approach explores access to design tools in the 21st century. As a methodology for the paper, the narrative inquiry underpins a climate care discourse in urban design education. Furthermore, contemporary urban design pedagogy aims to transform the built environment by re-evaluating and redesigning education. Consequently, the studio model as a teaching and researching tool is under permanent reconsideration. The urban design discipline uniquely addresses global urbanization in all its complexities. Innovative strategies and educational practices engage with these urban design multiplicities in advanced design studio education. In addition, the interconnected nature of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and urbanization demands interdisciplinary approaches. How does urban design education translate the challenges of urbanizing environments into pedagogy? This research explores contemporary urban design education, considering the design studio as the core teaching element. A social and ecological paradigm emerges by reassessing the velocities, targets, and directions in urban design today. The 21st century is considered the creative century. Higher education has embraced creativity in what has been described as the creative turn by Harris. Future leaders' business, industry, and innovation skills identify creativity amongst the 10 central skills to support the fourth industrial revolution, as described by the World Economic Forum. To think beyond current parameters to solve global problems, creativity is as important as literacy, states Robinson. Creativity, therefore, defines the 21st century skill set. Through the lens of design, this research examines a research framework that can guide urban design. The long-standing design studio culture is the core element of European and North American design schools. Studio models continuously adapt to sociocultural factors, technological change, and emergent employment markets. For example, in craft history, apprenticeship training evolved into an atelier-based setting, allowing more students to be educated at once. The studio became central in architectural education after the introduction of the Beaux-Arts model in the 19th century. The Bauhaus in the 1920s translated art and design disciplines into a higher education curriculum, prioritizing subject matter as an approach to teaching and learning. In the postmodern period, the domain of the city became a topic of inquiry in interdisciplinary collaborations amongst diverse fields, including sociology, economics, planning, technology, and systems theory. The first urban design program was established at Harvard University in 1960, instituting urban design as an intellectual discipline independent from architecture, landscape architecture, and planning. Joseph Louis Serre, then president of the International Congress of Modern Architecture, initiated the program after leading an urban design conference as dean at Harvard's Graduate School of Design in 1956. Studio culture carries the flexibility to adapt to current discourses. It has evolved to fit the creativity needs that defines the 21st century skill set. The different contexts and characteristics of the studio model provide rich opportunities for researching studio curriculum for broader educational applicability. Contemporary urban design education must emerge as a socioecological paradigm that considers cities and urbanization as a design problem. The Urban Prototype Design Studio at ETH Zurich is the baseline study to further test and develop the method design responsive teaching framework. The research priorities and questions presented here highlight critical research needs for urban design pedagogy. Architecture and urban design education are at an impasse. Their current pedagogical trajectory concerns a rapidly changing urban environment. Therefore, new approaches are needed to educate a new generation of well-versed designers to address urban challenges. Teaching methods include learning together and integrating skills and values through workshops, seminars, lecture series, and architecture and urban design studios. In general, the design studio carries a fluidity and does not have a universal approach. The instructions for it are rooted in the convergence of methodological priorities, student input, and critical interests. The central format in architecture and urban design education is the design studio. It is a pedagogical method integrating mixed teaching tools and strategies. The Urban Prototype Architecture and Urban Design Studio is conceptualized from distinct vantage points, emphasizing its formal and informal components. It examines the structure, pedagogy, and epistemology of the urban design studio components according to Schaffer, generating a baseline for the method design responsive teaching framework. What are the formal components of the studio learning environment? The teaching environment is crucial in developing future professionals, defining a space where teaching and learning happen through active participation. Unlike typical classroom scenarios of most other fields, design studios are unparalleled intellectual and social engagement sites. Studios have different arrangements, ranging from theoretically focused studios to traveling studios, and also studios with mixed method approaches. The formal curriculum and assignments set the tone in each studio, and students are socialized into the discipline, eventually becoming professionals. New structural forms of the studio environment emerge through the interrelation of digital and analog tools, allowing for local and global placemaking. As a digital native, the contemporary student easily navigates hybrid forms of physical and virtual environments in online and offline modes. Urban design education is limitless and includes educational technology and platforms with access to decentralized networks of massive open online courses, do-it-yourself projects within a maker and hacker culture, and new approaches to crowdsourcing and networking for unsolicited project making. This new generation redefines innovative educational models as new diverse working environments emerge. What teaching tools and strategies in the urban design studio environment facilitate and explore urbanization processes? As a student-centered form of learning conducted in small groups, the studio allows for iterative and process-based outcomes, in a flexible and responsive teaching environment. Project-centered learning as a method through which students study design within their discipline requires space for interpretation. The Urban Prototype Design Studio features allow for creating a hands-on learning environment where students can develop skills and modes of thought required for effective performance to address complex urban problems. What are the best practices within education that expand socioecological principles in urban design? The best practices in urban design education are the ones that engage students with contemporary urbanization issues concerning our planetary stability. Socioecological principles validate possible best practices. Ultimately, the goal of such endeavors is knowledge creation and distribution. A studio's potential lies in the idea of learning together and integrating skills and values. How does urban design education translate the challenges of urbanizing environments into pedagogy? Considering the structure, pedagogy, and epistemology within the studio settings that vary from university to university, a new teaching and learning paradigm for social equality and ecological contributions create new possibilities within the curriculum and professional practice. The method design approach is an open-ended circular thinking and responsive teaching framework that constantly reevaluates societal challenges. It thus negotiates the complexity of contemporary urban issues. Considering the many risks and vulnerabilities that urban environments face, especially climate change and social inequality, I propose a research agenda to develop resiliency and sustainabilities in cities and communities. Thus, the research question, which is to comprehend the pedagogy in urban design, becomes a climate question. This is because the discussion must reference the many inconvenient challenges of these times. The method design responsive teaching framework engages with design for all by all. The framework has multiple orientation points: multiscalar, circular, regenerative, resilient, and interdependent. Urban design education in this context is based on a climate care narrative where caring for the earth defines the primary actions. This narrative encourages a relationship of mutual care between species and earth. Design as the driver imagines possible futures by providing access to design tools in the 21st century and combining interconnected dynamic processes, methods, and tools directed by circular design thinking. This new design agenda guides the conceptual contributions of the method design framework using 4 themes that cover various possible design outcomes: the nurturing, dwelling, moving, and generating categories. The nurturing category encompasses themes of nature, food, and production. The moving category covers the global transportation and the mobilization of goods and services. Generating provides ideas about new materials, tools, and frameworks to imagine circular strategies. Finally, the dwelling category refers to ingenuity in society's habitation, integrating new family, citizenship, and urbanization forms. The baseline study of the unsolicited design studio work at ETH Zurich develops design tools worldwide within a circular thinking approach to envision sustainable cities and communities. This approach engages students in the design studio topic, teaching them skills to develop prototypes on an urban and architectural scale. By identifying local stakeholder group networks based on urban project, the studio approach translates challenges and demands into opportunities and strategic ideas, georeferenced maps, and interlinked systems. The development of design concepts for urban prototypes on different scales is process-based and frames the urban design project as a narrative. These concepts are visualized and communicated using analog, drawings and models, and digital tools, projection, digital fabrication, films, three-dimensional modeling, and scripting. At the intersection of urban and landscape design and public arts, the design studio envisions trans-scalar dynamic developments and radical urban imaginaries for social transformation. The Live Studio Brief is under constant reconsideration and provides a basis for an iterative practice articulating frameworks for innovative neighborhoods. At the core of each activity is urbanization through architecture, activating design outputs by defining concrete interventions. The socioecological framework dimensions allow urban design education to be an interdisciplinary research process that considers urban areas as nodes of economically, technologically, politically, socially, and ecologically interwoven transformation. An integrated approach in the natural and social sciences has started viewing socioecological studies as an interdisciplinary approach to examining the complex nature of urban areas. Critical themes for an urban sustainability framework are as follows: sustainable land use patterns and policy, considerations of transport and mobility systems, resource independence, pollution and waste elimination, natural ecosystem preservation and restoration, adequate housing, civic spaces, and community participation, socioecological diversity through integrating different ideas and cultures, and inclusive economics and opportunities for all. New directions in the expanded field of urban design discourse, ecological, landscape, sustainable, and smart urbanism aim to convey strategies and tactics for urban design output in an economically, socially, and culturally changing environment. The method design responsive teaching framework aligns with these directions by delivering a framework that actively creates design tools for the 21st century. This educational effort currently at ETH Zurich ensures that one such exemplary involvement in climate care motivates the students that become future practitioners to respond to complex contemporary urban urgencies.